Hi, everyone. The last video was about how to use the Gmail platform and the technical things that you need to know to use it, but this video is a little bit different. This video talks about the social and cultural rules around using email when you're in college. Every family, workplace, and environment has its own social rules about how to communicate, and college is the same. So here we're going to focus on the expectations that people have when you use email in college. All right, let's get started. So the way we use email in college is different from the way that we use it personally or in business. Using email in college has its own culture. The way we use email in college is pretty formal. One of the social habits in an online program like the one we have here at Eastern is that we email rather than call. In some environments, calling is usually the first thing that you go to, but here at Eastern, we usually email first. The only time that we use the phone is if there's an emergency and you can't get to email, or if we have an appointment for a call, which means we planned the call ahead of time with a time, planning to get together and have that meeting. But for the most part, all of our communication between staff, professors, and students happens by email. Probably the most important thing about college email culture is that the expectation is that you're going to be checking it every day. When somebody sends you an email, a classmate, a professor, a staff member from Eastern, they're expecting that you're going to see that email that same day because they're expecting that you're checking your email every single day. All right, let's talk about some of the expectations about writing and replying to email. For replying, the social expectation is that you'll probably reply to an email within one day. When somebody sends you an email, it starts about a 24-hour clock ticking, and they're expecting to hear something back from you within one day. If your reply takes any longer, two things might happen. One, we might start to worry about you, right? We're wondering, why didn't she check her email? Why hasn't she replied? But also some people might consider it rude that you left their email waiting for longer than a day. Unlike text messages and informal emails, emails in college should always start with a greeting. So don't just start typing the message. Always begin with some kind of greeting, like "Dear Professor Smith" or "Hello, Professor Smith." If you have a good relationship with the person or they're a peer or a classmate, you might start with "Hi" or "Hi, Jennifer," something like that. But in college culture, we usually don't send an email that doesn't have some kind of greeting at the top. Something that is strange in particular about colleges and universities is that people who work in colleges care a lot about what you call them. And that's because most people who work in a university worked hard for their title. And so it's important to them that they get called by their title. And sometimes they get insulted or angry if you use the wrong title or call them the wrong way. So here are some examples of some people here at Eastern. The president of our university, President Ron Matthews, if I were writing an email to him, I would start with president. So I would say, "Dear President Matthews," or "Hello, President Matthews." Kaylee Johnson is a dean. So a dean is a person who's in charge of a whole part of the college. Like the dean of education is Susan Edgar Smith. So Dean Johnson would be addressed, "Hello, Dean Johnson," or "Dear Dean Johnson." Dr. Shane is somebody who's achieved his PhD. And so in the college culture, I need to call him doctor. So my email to him would say, "Dear Dr. Shane." Now, I am not a doctor, I'm just a professor. So the polite way to call me would be Professor Bluen. Now, Delano Shane is also a professor, but he has a higher title than professor. And Dean Johnson is also a doctor, but she has a higher title than doctor. So we always address the person with the highest possible title. So Dr. Johnson's highest title is Dean Johnson, and that's what I would use when I email her. If you do not know the person's title, guess higher. So if you don't know if a professor is a doctor, say doctor, and then let them correct you and say, "Oh, I'm not a doctor," rather than making the other mistake and just calling them professor when actually they're a doctor. So here are some possible greetings that you have for these different people. If the person is higher up than you, like President Matthews, Dean Johnson, or Dr. Shane, it's probably safe to stick with dear or hello. But for somebody like me, where our relationship is a little more informal and I'm not a doctor, you might also, after we've communicated a few times, start your email with hi. Please notice the punctuation in these greetings. Dear has no comma after it, but there is a comma after the person's name. Hello does have a comma after it. So hello, comma, name, comma. And if you're using something informal like hi, an exclamation point is okay. When you're writing college email, don't start an email with just hi or hello. Make sure you're greeting the person. If you're in a long email chain and you've been emailing many emails back and forth and the other person stops greeting, so they stop saying dear Shannon or whatever your name is, then you can also stop greeting, right? We don't need to greet all the way down a long back and forth reply chain. If the other person stops greeting, you can stop greeting too. So we always start an email with the highest title, president, doctor, dean. And then as part of our college culture, it is polite to then include a small talk sentence. This is just a sentence of greeting that has nothing to do with what's going to be in the email. And it's kind of like it would be if you met somebody out in the city, right? If you met somebody, you wouldn't say hi and then immediately go to what you needed, right? Usually when you go to the cashier, you might say, hi, how are you? Before you ask where something is, right? And email is the same. We start with a small talk sentence, something like, I hope you're doing well. If it's a Monday, you might say, I hope you had a relaxing weekend. If it's your own professor, oh, I'm looking forward to the class. Just some little thing to say, hey, we have a relationship. This isn't just a transaction. Remember when you're writing your small talk sentence that it should start with a capital letter and end with a period. Let's talk about replying to emails that you receive. In the same way, you're going to start with the highest title. Hello, Dean Johnson. Hello, President Matthews. And then your small talk sentence should be a reply to the fact that they wrote something to you. So a good small talk sentence is thank you for your email or thank you for getting back to me. So it's a little bit different than when you're the one writing the email, you say, I hope you're doing well. This is just to continue the conversation. Thank you for your email. Then you're going to do a line by line answer. And that means you need to make sure that you're getting all the information in the email you received and replying to every single part of it. So answering email is a little bit slow because you really want to make sure that you answer every point in the email you receive. So here's an example. The original email says, hello, Shonda. I'm looking forward to having you in our special ed class. I noticed this is your first education class. Do you have any background in special ed? And then it's signed by Professor Williams. So Shonda makes a good reply. She starts with the highest title, Professor Williams. We know she's not a doctor because she signed Professor Williams in her email. So hello, Professor Williams. Her small talk sentence, thank you for your email. I'm looking forward to the class too, right? That's her small talk. Now she replies, I work with special ed students in my job, okay? She's explaining what her experience is. I haven't taken a class, but I have a lot of experience. So the professor said, you didn't take a class, do you have experience? And she says, yes, that's right. I didn't take a class, but I do have experience. She closes with a thank you and then signs her name. So this is a really good college email, like a professional email with all the parts included. You notice that she signed off with a thank you, and that should always be the last part of an email. Greeting with the highest title, your small talk sentence, a line-by-line answer, and then some kind of gratitude. Usually just a thank you, but sometimes thank you for something. Thank you for checking in on me. Here's another example email. The professor asked, how are you planning to get the information? She says, I plan to watch the recording of the Zoom meeting tonight. Thank you for checking on me. So if we look at these two examples of emails, we can see they both have all four parts. The greeting with the highest title, the small talk sentence, these are both replies, so they both have thank you for your email. And then an answer line by line that includes answers to every question that was in the original email, a thank you, and then they sign their name. Because college emails are professional emails, spelling does matter. So make sure that you use spell check when you send an email to a professor or somebody in the university. If you're not sure how to use spell check in Gmail, check the previous video. I go over how to do it there. As a general rule, if somebody sends you an email, you should always reply, even if you're just replying quickly to say, thank you, I received this. But the general rule is always reply to an email. But sometimes an email doesn't need a reply. If you receive a mass email that was sent to a large group of people and the greeting is something like hello or hello Eastern students or something like that, and the email doesn't ask you for anything, it doesn't need a reply, it doesn't need any action, it doesn't need any information, then no reply is necessary. Replies are only necessary if the email is sent to you directly and greets you, or if the email is asking you for something. Often you're going to need to email the university or a professor because you need something. So let's talk about the special structure for that. Just like every email, you want to start with a greeting with the highest title and a small talk sentence, and then comes your request or your question. Here are some structures that are pretty common when we ask for things. I'm writing to ask. So I'm writing to ask if we need to have this handed in by Thursday. I'm wondering if you could provide a syllabus for me. I'm hoping you can help me with the grammar rules. I don't understand them. Would you be able to give me a little more time to complete the essay? Could you answer a question about something? And I have the could circled here because could is polite and can is not. So I'm going to ask you to be really careful about making sure that you say, could you instead of can you? So here's an example email. Dear Dr. Shane, I hope you're well. That's the small talk sentence. I'm writing to ask whether we need to buy any books for this class. And make sure again with your request that you're starting with a capital letter and ending with a period. As always, complete that email with gratitude. Thanks for your help with a capital letter. She's got an exclamation point. You need some kind of punctuation there. And then the person's name. Again, remember, when you're asking for something, run spell check before you send your email. So here's an example of an email I received from a student last week. It's a pretty good example of what not to do when you're sending email in college. This email is perfectly acceptable in other situations, but for college, it doesn't really meet the culture and it doesn't meet the expectations. So take a look at this email and see if you can figure out what the problems are with it. I'm guessing that you saw a few things. 1, there's no greeting. 2, there's no small talk sentence. 3, this sentence doesn't begin with a capital letter and end with punctuation. There's no gratitude, and the person didn't sign it. So they're pretty much breaking all of the rules of college email. When you see an email like this, you might say, well, it's pretty clear what the person wants. So why does it matter that they didn't follow the cultural rules? There are a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is it's practical. When you're in a place, if you follow the same tone and expectations as that place, you can definitely get things done a lot more quickly and easily. If you follow people's expectations, you're more likely to get what you need. There are also social and cultural reasons. I'm sure you've been in different environments and see how different environments have different expectations about what you should say and how you should act. And college is no different. The best way to fit in and get the most of the place you're in is to understand what the social and cultural expectations are. The social and cultural rules for how to use email are something that people in a university really care about. Most of the people that you'll be interacting with while you're here are teachers, they're professors, or they're people who used to be teachers or professors. And so the ways that language is used is something that's particularly important to them. And they tend to take it pretty personally, right? Just like their titles matter to them, the way that they're addressed matters to them. And in our minds, Following the social and cultural rules for email is a sign of respect for the university and a sign of respect for the person who you're sending it to. And when people get respect, they give respect back. People who feel respect from you are more likely to help you. They're more likely to help you quickly. They're more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. So it really benefits you to know what the rules are and follow them while you're here. So as you're starting to email for university, I encourage you to follow this structure and pay attention to these rules. And we have some practice sheets attached to this email. So now that you've watched the video, go ahead and try the practice sheets.